All right, everyone. Today's special guest is the award-winning composer, the composer of Loki, Natalie Holt. Everyone, welcome Natalie to Friends from Work. Woo!
Hi.
Natalie, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
It's such a fun day to have you on. As we've been telling folks that the album has been in the works. We've had a lot of people asking when the album was finally going to release, and today is the day that it's out. So if you're listening to this, it is already available on Spotify and Apple and all other things, and it's great. It's a really, really nice listen. So be sure to go check that out.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So Natalie, first question. When you got this project handed to you, for our listeners out there, where do you even begin? How does one put pen to paper on something this large of a scope? I mean, with it being a TV show, you're having to make multiple episodes worth of songs. Where did you start? What inspirations did you pull from? Take us through that.
Well, yeah, I guess the starting point was probably the pitch that I had to do to get the job. So like the job came through from my agent, and I think they interviewed a lot of composers for the job. And so I just did like a huge amount of research and like read the script multiple times and made loads of notes and like responses and I think the pitch, the theme for Loki kind of was there in my demo actually.
Oh
wow.
Like
I came up with that, with the Loki theme, and it was there. I had to score the scene in episode 1 where they go into the time theater.
Yes.
And Loki like looks back at his life. So that was the kind of demo thing. So yeah, it's really funny to go back and listen to that, because it's not like a million miles away from how I scored the show. So it was like my obviously, I guess that's why I got the job, because my instinct for scoring it seemed to fit with Kate's vision and the instrument. I used the theremin in that pitch, like my friend Charlie Draper played the live theremin on the score, and I think that sound just kind of gave it the edge that Kate and Kevin were looking for. So yeah.
It's funny that you bring up that time theater scene, because I was wondering, specifically the Frigga track on the album today, like there seems to be a bit of kind of connective tissue between that and some of the stuff that like Mark Mothersbaugh did in Ragnarok, and sort of like there's like a track there called Twilight of the Gods. And it just made me wonder, when you come into a project like this, did you feel, it's such a new thing, but then it obviously is dealing with a character that has a lot of history. Did you feel like you wanted to try to connect those somehow, or did you feel like it was really a blank slate?
Well, I loved Ragnarok. I thought the soundtrack was amazing. Like I watched it many times and was definitely inspired by it. So I guess you can't escape that, being inspired by what's been done in the past. But I also really got the feeling from Marvel that they were just open. They were up for anything. They were like, we really want to push the boat out on this. And when I sent out, so I scored, I got the job, I scored episode 1, and I sent it off, and I knew this was like the first time that the execs, Kevin Feige, would be hearing my music. So I was like, oh my gosh, what are the notes going to be like? And I remember like it just came back, push it further. That was his one note. So I think that there was just this really open, like creative, I felt like very supported to just kind of go to those places and do those weird things and not be tied too much.
Well, I mean, that's what Kyle and I, right after we saw the first episode, immediately started geeking out about your score, because I felt the reason I bring up that Frigga track is it feels like some bits of Thor in there. Like it feels like it's got the DNA, but it's also like pushing it to totally new places. And like the score is so exciting and so like genuinely different from anything else that's been in the MCU. And I think that like combining those two in any way, I think is such an impressive feat. So I think you must have taken Kevin's note to heart there, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, like, I just feel really like a lot of credit is due to those musicians that I worked with as well. Like, you know, that magic sound that you get from, so I went to a concert like 3 years ago in London, and my friend put on, he kind of works with these two guys, Eric and Olav. They're in a trio called the Lodestar Trio. And yeah, I heard them in this concert, and it was like a blend of the nickel harper, the hardanger fiddle, which are two traditional Norwegian folk instruments, and then Max, my friend, was playing the violin, and I loved the blend of that sound. And they were doing like Bach, but sort of reinterpreted with a folky Norwegian twist. And that sound was really in my head, and I've been wanting to find a way to work with those guys for ages. So, you know, Loki's obviously got this Norse mythology, and it just seemed like the perfect time to bring those instruments into the score.
I love that
like,
so much.
Yeah, they were just incredible.
I wanted to ask you specifically about, I think, what you call the Loki theme, which just 2 weeks ago, Robbie and I, actually before Loki started, we recorded a power rankings of the best themes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And darn it, Natalie, I think you're going to make us redo it already, because this wham, 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 bum, 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 wham, is like
It's
top
so
notch. Let's go. Are
It's
you
so
kidding me on
good.
that theme? I just need to know more about that theme. Tell me about it more, please.
So that was the one that was in the demo that I did for the, you know, I pitched. That was there, like, right. I just read the script, and I sat down on the piano, and I came up with that bass line. And then I was like, oh, I want to kind of like bring some kind of classical element to it. And I was like playing around with some Mozart, you know, that or some kind of Shakespearean flourish. I was like, I want something in the top that kind of that balances out that heavy.
Yeah.
It's so cheeky. I felt like it needed something. And then that rip comes from Wagner, Ride of the Valkyries. And that, again, it feels like I'm calling, you know, obviously it's Ride of the Valkyries, it's perfect. And so that brim, brim, brim is
man.
So yeah, that seemed to go really well. Yeah.
I love that so much. Can I ask you another nerdy question? I don't know if you're actually recording the synths or somebody else, but do you know what they're actually using for like that synth bass? Just in general, there's a ton of synth across the whole thing.
So some of the bass, like the bass in that one is on the theremin. There's like loads of layers. Wow. Like the theremin player has an Ondas Martinot as well. So there's two. He'd like often give me multiple layers. So sometimes the bass would just be like a combination of the theremin and the Ondas Martinot, and then we'd record it through an analog tape machine to kind of dirty it up.
Oh, that's cool.
So that kind of almost makes it sound like a synth. But then I've got a Juno 60. So I was using analog synths, and then there's a bit of Zebra. There's a few in the box synths in there as well, and a bit of Moog as well. So yeah.
That might be the nerdiest question of the day, but that also might be the happiest you'll make someone in one day. So thank you.
We're always curious when folks, especially new composers, come to projects like this, what your Marvel history has been. I mean, you sort of answered that already, in that you're a big fan of Ragnarok. Are these films that you've kind of been following for some time? Was this something that was sort of totally new to you as you were pitching the Loki project and getting further into that?
So I loved Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Like I was definitely watching all of those Marvel, you know, I'm kind of I know the whole thing. I'm not like a super fan.
Sure.
I probably am now, but yeah. So like I totally know all the stories. I can't say I'm like a comic. I wasn't like,
of course, no,
a comic book
Me
person.
either.
But and as a kid, I guess like I watched Star Wars with my dad, and to be honest, like John Williams is probably the reason why I'm doing my job.
Oh wow,
man! I mean, that's a good reason.
Yeah, like those Star Wars scores. and ET and everything as well. So yeah, I guess I've always loved sci-fi, and like particularly I love Clockwork Orange and 2001 Space Odyssey. Like I'm sort of really a lover of those kind of 70s off the wall space age, and kind of like those utopian or dystopian things as well. I'm like, yeah, love those kind of.
Well, it sounds like this was a perfect project for you then, because I can totally, with the theremin and some of those things, it has those influences in it. Yeah, that sound, the theremin sound and those synths immediately take you kind of to sci-fi land, if you will. And so I love that. I have one more compliment. In one of the things one of the things we look for in scores is when you can come up with a melody, but then play it in different ways and it can totally convey totally different emotions. So like example, as I was listening through on Spotify, the Loki soundtrack so far, you have the main TVA theme, the with the big synths that comes up with every title card or whatnot. But then I noticed, like in a song like Oshkosh, at the very end of it, you start bringing in the same progression, but with the strings, and it just has this like sadder feel. And that's my compliment. It's unbelievable that you can still do that. And that's our favorite thing, right? That you take those same progressions, but make it convey different emotions.
Well, I think just watch out for the future episodes then.
Oh,
that keeps going.
I had a question, as long as we're getting real granular here. And I thought about this because you were talking about kind of pulling from Norse mythology and sort of like Norwegian culture as much as possible. In episode 3, the song that Tom sings, is that a song that you composed?
It's not, I'm afraid. I wish I could take credit for it, but and that has actually, I think because of COVID, they'd started filming like last January and then got shut down. And I think that scene was already shot.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I was already, Tom was already singing it before I'd ever been involved, and he was actually singing it solo in that scene, and it was like people kind of standing around clapping, but it felt like if you would watch that scene as it first was, it felt a bit, it didn't feel like raucous. And so I just suggested to Kate, I was like, oh, can I like play around with putting some backing instruments in there, like imagining like maybe someone had a space age, like a space instrument on the train, and they just got drunk and pulled it out the bag and started playing along with him, because I just feel like that would give that scene a bit more life. And Kate and Kevin were like, yeah, sure. So I just did it, and I kind of demoed it up for them, and they're like, right, okay, we're gonna shoot an extra playing the instrument. And they found this instrument that they'd done it, I think it was in Endgame. It was like it was from a different film, but they had this thing, and the production designer kind of got it, and we filmed this girl playing the stuff that I wrote to accompany Tom, but it was like done afterwards.
Wow.
I think it works.
Yeah, no, it works really well, because and that makes sense. I was going to say it fits remarkably well with the music that you've composed for the show in general. So I guess that would make sense given the tie-in there. I thought that was a moment when we were talking about that episode that really stood out to me. So whatever y'all did there musically really kind of hit home for me, and I've heard from a lot of folks that really enjoyed that.
Natalie, I read in your bio that you're a lifelong violinist. Is that true?
Yes, it is true.
Take me through some of your musical background.
Oh, well, there's also a bit of Norwegian connection too. Like I've got I've got 2 uncles that moved to Norway. So like all my cousins are half English, half Norwegian. I'm like often over there. So there's a Norwegian connection and music connection of like my uncles were in a band, and my mum was a music teacher, and she's a cellist. So yeah, I guess there was always music going on in my family. And then my grandmother was a violinist as well, so I picked up I'm playing still her violin, which is quite a nice connection.
Oh, that's
cool.
Nice.
Yeah. and I went went to music college, and then I went to the National Film and Television School, which was amazing because they do a specific film composing course, and you get to kind of be paired up with like directors of fiction and animation and documentary.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was like such a fun master's, a great 2 years. And also my tutor there was Peter Howell, who was in the BBC Radiophonics workshop. And he did one of the 80s version of the Doctor Who theme with his.
Oh, no way.
So he was my tutor at film school. Yeah.
That's so fun. Have you gotten a chance to meet John Williams? You brought that up earlier.
No, okay, I had tickets. I had tickets to go and see him. He was playing the Albert Hall, and then I think he was poorly and it got cancelled, but I was devastated. I'd love to see him.
We got to make that happen somehow.
Have you found that that the process for like scoring some, because you talk about working with Kevin, who's not the director necessarily, and so you've kind of got all these different, I would imagine, elements of the team when you're working on a Marvel project. Is that pretty different than your experience composing other things?
Definitely, yeah. Sorry, and when I say Kevin, I mean Kevin Wright, who was the producer, not Kevin Feige. He wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
That's fair.
There were the two Kevins.
Two Kevins.
Two Kevins. Confusing. There were lots of Peters as well. But yeah. So yeah, it did very much. Kate and I really connected up. Like, I think we kind of still keep in touch, and we're actually meeting up for the first time in real life to do a podcast together in London.
Oh, no way.
Because we've never met. It's so
that's
bonkers.
Insane to think about, that you've never met each other.
You've never met each other.
Wow.
Man, that'll be so fun though. I can't wait to hear that.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting her, but I feel like I've known her like a really long time anyway, and it's just like that really intense connection that you get with people when you're working on a project like this, and everyone's so passionate about it and putting everything into it. So yeah,
love that. Well, before we let you go, can you tell us anything you're working on, or will we get sniped through the window here?
Oh well, there's a few things I'm not allowed to tell you about, but I've got a film coming out. It's on Netflix in this autumn, which is called Fever Dream, which I'm really excited. It's a beautiful film, directed by Claudia Lalosa, very different from Loki, but it's sort of about a strange illness, so it's quite timely, and a sort of mother and daughter, and a kind of quite spiritual film. But yeah, that's going to be out, and it's she's from Peru, so that'll be on Netflix this autumn.
Love that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, Natalie, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Is there any chance that you were going to go see John Williams live? Is there going to be a chance for us to go see Natalie Holt live?
That's a good question. Now we're talking.
Oh, that would be awesome. I'd love to all these people I've been working with remotely. I want to get them all in a space and make some music with them. So yeah, hope so. Hope the future holds that.
Well, you can count us as 2 tickets if it happens. So we'll be.
Oh, you come and play the guitar and the piano.
Well, that's what I was. I had to toss that out there. If I was listening to a couple tracks, heard some electric guitar in there. I thought,
that's Jack. Yeah.
Natalie, I thought next time you're sitting around, you're like, oh man, I just don't know who's going to play this electric guitar part. Think of your friend Kyle in Nashville.
Okay,
just just tossing it out there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, Natalie. This has been a huge pleasure, and I know you got a busy day, so keep doing what you're doing. We're huge fans, and we can't wait to see what else you come up with the rest of Loki.
Oh, thank you so much. Lovely to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
All right, take care. Bye.